Hello, everybody, and welcome to Joy-Con Cast Episode 2. I'm your host, Nicholas, and welcome to this week's episode of the Joy-Con Cast. This week, we have quite a bit to talk about, from Reggie Fils-Aimé retiring and Doug Bowser taking his place, to Xbox Game Pass and Xbox games coming to Switch, Nintendo possibly reviving a dead game, and more. We have quite a frenzy of news to talk about this week. But before we actually get right into that, I do want to make an announcement. Depending on when you're watching this, there was probably either today or yesterday a Nintendo Direct focused on Pokemon, with the new Pokemon games announced and possibly some other information. And due to recording schedules, this week we won't be talking about that. That'll definitely be next week's episode, but just wanted to make that clear. We'll have a whole episode about that next week. But for now, let's go ahead and talk about everything I mentioned in the opening snippet. The first thing I want to talk about is Reggie Fils-Aimé retiring. So, in April, to be exact, April 15th, Reggie Fils-Aimé, who is the current president of Nintendo of America, will be stepping down, and Doug Bowser, current VP of Sales, will take his place. Now, this was obviously huge, shocking news. It kind of came out of nowhere, and it's really bittersweet. I feared this day would come for a long time. It was bound to happen. Reggie's been at Nintendo, I believe, for 15 years, 13 of them as the president. And yeah, I mean, the man deserves a break. The man's he's I'm sure, especially through the Wii U era, he's worked tirelessly over at Nintendo. And it's very bittersweet. It's amazing that he's retiring in good health and in good conscience. It's not like he did anything wrong. He's not leaving on a negative front. So that's very great. That's awesome. But it sucks because Reggie is such a staple to Nintendo at this point. His personality at E3 and in the directs, his humor, his the positivity he gives off. He's definitely been a huge member of the Nintendo community. He's definitely been a huge member of the Nintendo community in his own way, outside of just being the president, due to his personality and all that. And Doug Bowser, who, like I said, is current VP of Sales, will take his place in April. And Doug Bowser, I don't think you could ask for anyone with a better name. But he has some pretty big shoes to fill. Reggie did a fantastic job, in my opinion. There are things that he's done that maybe we can disagree upon and that, maybe weren't the best for the company. But through thick and thin, especially, like I said, through Wii U and to get the Switch off the ground running, he's been right there at the, in the front. And he's done an excellent job. And I'm interested to see what Doug Bowser is going to bring to the table. I'm very interested to see how his personality is going to shine through directs, through E3. E3 is this June. I'm sure we might get, well, like I said, there is a Nintendo, a Pokemon-focused Nintendo Direct either today or yesterday, depending on when you're watching or listening to this. I'm interested, and obviously he's not going to host that, but I'm interested if we'll get another Direct before E3. We might get one in spring with Smash Bros. I don't think we'll necessarily see Doug Bowser then, but making his debut at E3 wouldn't be too bad at all. And so I'm interested to see how he presents himself with humor, personality, positivity, all that. What made Reggie Reggie? I'm sure over the course of the next month we'll hear more. But very shocking news, very interesting, and I'm excited. But at the same time, I'm eager, but I'm also nervous, and it's a very confusing time right now. But I wish Reggie the best. Hopefully, he gets some wonderful time with his family, his wife, his kids, friends, all of that. And I hope he enjoys retirement. As far as I'm concerned, or as far as I'm aware, he's not leaving Nintendo for another company. He's not moving somewhere else. He's not going anywhere else. He's not taking his experience and getting another job. It's purely retirement, so I wish him the best with that. Moving on, it came out earlier this year that Xbox Live is coming to iOS, Android, and none other than Nintendo Switch. At first, that sounds very shocking, very, very odd, very out there. But now there are rumors that Xbox is bringing Xbox Game Pass to Nintendo Switch with games like Cuphead and Ori and the Blind Forest. And personally, this doesn't seem all that odd. This generation, Xbox has definitely hasn't done that great when it comes to its hardware. I think the Switch is already, last I checked, the Switch was like neck and neck with Xbox One sales. It's neck and neck with Xbox One sales. And so Xbox hasn't been doing that well. And it's been out as long as the PlayStation. PlayStation seems to have doubled it. So hardware-wise, Xbox as a brand for hardware isn't doing all that hot. And I think moving forward, Microsoft is learning from that. And I don't think they're going to go the Sega route and go third-party only. But I do think they're going to incorporate their software like Xbox Live, Xbox Game Pass, even straight up just their games. And they're going to bring that to more markets. They're going to bring that to more hardware like the Switch, like iOS, like Android, like tablets, like laptops. Pretty much, Microsoft's looking at streaming. They're looking at how they can bring their games to as many platforms as possible. I think moving forward, this next generation of PlayStation and Xbox, I don't know if it'll necessarily be the last generation of traditional, normal, conventional consoles, but I definitely think it'll be the last generation before we see a really huge turnaround in how we play video games. Xbox, even the rumor of Xbox Game Pass coming to Nintendo Switch shows that Microsoft is confident in streaming and software, and they don't care where you're playing their games. They just want you to play their games. They want you to play Halo, Forza, Sea of Thieves, Crackdown, whatever it may be. And even if that has to be on Nintendo or a mobile phone or a tablet, as long as it has a screen and internet connection, they want you to play their games. And I think it's smart. Streaming right now, I don't think it's not going to take off for a long time. The internet data caps are limiting internet as a whole when it comes to how much you pay. It's just too much. It's not available everywhere. 5G is long from being the norm. It's so far into the future. I don't think streaming your games to your phone, as convenient as it sounds, isn't going to be all that great right off the ground, as most things are. But they definitely want as much of that pie as they can when it becomes available. So getting their foot in the ground now, getting their foot through the door and saying, hey, let's establish a strong presence in digital downloads, streaming, software, so that way eventually when gaming does become a more streaming heavy hobby or experience, Microsoft can already learn from what they're doing now. They can continue to grow and adapt, while companies like Sony and Nintendo, who are probably going to stick to a more conventional console and package their software with their hardware, they're not going to necessarily be left behind, but they're going to be left doing what they do best and what they're doing right now. I think it's smart. I think Xbox or Microsoft doesn't see Nintendo as a competitor, especially since they've been very buddy this generation, even though I think Switch is technically next gen in my opinion, but they've been very, very buddy. I can see Microsoft looking at Nintendo as allies, as friends, over a strict competitor. Microsoft definitely views Sony as a competitor. They're not going to bring their games over to PlayStation. I very much doubt that. But bringing their software and their games and Game Pass to tablets and phones and Switch, that's a whole new market for Microsoft to put their content on. I'll be honest, I'm not wowed by any Microsoft exclusive content. There's not a single Microsoft IP or Xbox exclusive that shocks me or wows me or excites me like Nintendo. Nintendo is the only platform that I will buy the console for the exclusives. Sony is very, very, very close. It's under that. As of late, owning a PS4, I love games like God of War, Last of Us, Spider-Man, stuff like that. But it's also been a third-party machine for me. Games like Red Dead Redemption. Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, stuff like that. And hopefully those games end up coming to Switch, so I can just have my Switch play third-party games, Nintendo games, and Xbox games. That sounds like literally, you can't ask for anything better. If this happens, if Xbox Game Pass comes to Switch, even, and with games like Ori and the Blind Forest and Cuphead, which I can't imagine are that difficult to port over, the Switch would literally be the perfect game console. Yeah, you're missing out on Sony IPs, but you still got some games like Crash Bandicoot, even though that's now Activision property, but come on. Can you ask for anything better than a video game system, a hybrid console that can play Halo, Super Mario Bros., and Doom? Plus, there's a ton of indie games on the Switch. It'll literally be perfect. I would never buy an Xbox for Xbox games, but I wouldn't mind having Xbox games on my Switch. I would definitely, Game Pass, even if Xbox brings Game Pass to Switch, I don't know how that would work. I'm assuming there would be streaming involved, but if Xbox brings Game Pass to Switch, and even if a majority of Xbox games aren't included with that, if we got Xbox Game Pass along with the third-party games that are bundled with that, or tied with Game Pass as a subscription, I don't think you could pass that up. That sounds kind of perfect. Plus, if you bring over games like Cuphead, Ori and the Blind Forest, which, like I said, I can't imagine would be that difficult to port over, but bring those games along over, plus Forza, Halo, Crackdown, bring them all over. That would be amazing. That would be, and yes, it's a rumor, and so take this lightly, but I think it makes sense. We already know that Xbox Live is coming to Switch as well as mobile. We know that Project Scorpio, or not Project Scorpio, what was the new, they announced something else, Project xCloud, that's what it is. Their streaming service. We know that's on the horizon. That's Microsoft's way of streaming games to pretty much any, if not most, platforms. It's clear that Microsoft wants to focus on streaming and software to multiple platforms. Switch, as of right now, doesn't look like a competitor to Microsoft. So why not include that with mobile, with tablets, so on and so forth? Include Game Pass and Halo and other exclusive party games. Bring that over to Switch as well. I think it makes sense. And yes, it's a rumor, so take it lightly, but I don't think it's all that crazy when you really think about it. It does sound odd imagining playing Xbox games on Switch, but like I said, Microsoft's focusing on software and streaming right now. And putting their content on as many platforms as possible is a very smart move for them. Bringing it over to the Switch, which isn't necessarily a competitor to them in their minds, would make sense. Even if we don't get Game Pass, I would definitely like to see games like Ori and the Blind Forest. I think the sequel just came out to that as well, or it's on its way out. Bring that over, bring Cuphead over. There's a couple other games. I know Hell's Blade, the company behind that is actually a Microsoft-owned company now. So they've been buying out a bunch of companies. I know they announced that last year at E3. They bought out a ton of companies that are now developing titles under Microsoft's name. Bring those to Switch too. I mean, Xbox exclusives are already on PC with Xbox Live, and I could imagine in the future with Project xCloud bringing Game Pass and all those games to mobile. Bringing them to Switch doesn't sound that crazy. It's already a tablet with controllers attached to the side that can connect to the internet. It's literally the perfect piece of hardware for streaming games to, or not necessarily just streaming games to, but for Microsoft to bring their titles to. As much as I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but as much as I don't care for streaming games, that's kind of the future. That's kind of where we are heading. I'm a fan of digital games. I pretty much buy every game digitally now. Having it just linked to an account, I can download it days, sometimes weeks before the initial launch, so that way at midnight it's ready to go. It's just convenient not having to swap out cartridges or discs. I'm definitely all digital on my Switch, on my PS4 now, obviously for PC for the past few years. And streaming is kind of going to take over pretty soon. And I think it's going to take a long time for it to gain momentum and gain popularity. It's going to be a while. It's going to be a long while before that happens. I don't think as many people are going to be as hooked into it and interested into it. There's little to no ownership. It's literally just going to be a subscription service that Xbox is going to offer. And then pretty soon, other companies are going to offer their own. Like EA, EA already has Origin Access Premier, all this stuff. So, EA would have a subscription service. Ubisoft, Epic Games, Blizzard, so on and so forth. And at that point, it becomes you're going to have all these different subscriptions that are going to be probably $99 a year. That's how much, $10 a month or a little over $100 a year, and multiply all the different companies that are going to want in on that pie, because they don't want to. EA is not going to offer their Battlefield game included with Xbox's game streaming service. They're going to launch their own. So eventually, it's going to become a more of a nuisance than a convenience. And look at the way that even streaming movies and TV is now. You have Netflix, you have Hulu, you have Amazon Prime, then you have different packages you can add on to Hulu, like HBO and all that. It's not as convenient as it really should be. So streaming as a whole, when it comes to games, the quality can't be that good. The lag can't be. It's going to be super obnoxious. The internet, like I said, accessibility, price-wise, caps, it's not going to hold up, and it's not going to be a widespread thing. But Microsoft getting in on it now, figuring out how to take advantage of it, how to develop a streaming project, a streaming platform, and by the time it is a normal thing, Microsoft can possibly come out on top in the end. I know right now they're kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily the underdogs, but they're definitely not where Sony is, and they're definitely not where I think Nintendo is with the Switch right now. I think that this is the best bet. They're not necessarily. I don't know if they'll ever quit making hardware. From what I've read, they lose out financially on their hardware. I can't imagine the Xbox, especially now the Xbox One brand or the Xbox family of systems, I can't imagine brings in a lot of money. I can't imagine their hardware division is all that happy. And I'm not saying they need to sell out and go third party only or second party or whatever, but if they can afford to keep pushing hardware but bring their services and their software to other platforms that could take advantage of it, I think it's a very smart thing. And yeah, there does come kind of, especially when you talk about potentially like games like Halo or Sea of Thieves or Crackdown or whatever coming to Switch. Yeah, I think if that's the case, I could definitely see those being games that you'd have to stream, or else we would need a Switch Pro in order to handle some of them. But all in all, it's very interesting. With Xbox Live coming, I don't think anything is off the table at this point. I think it's very, very clear Microsoft's intentions and their end goal. And I don't blame them getting that experience now and building up a platform for eventually when streaming does become a growing market or a growing experience, they can get right in on the action just like that. So either way, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see Xbox Game Pass come to Switch. Like I said, I would never buy an Xbox for Xbox games, but I wouldn't mind Xbox games coming to Switch. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't mind. There are some Xbox games that I would actually check out if they were available on a platform I have now. There's really no purpose, in my opinion, on buying an Xbox in this generation. Especially not right now when PS5 and Xbox whatever the new Xbox is going to be called, whenever those are coming out within the next year or two easily, there's definitely no point buying them now. But I do think, I don't think there's a reason to buy an Xbox One this generation. You look at PlayStation 4 and all the amazing exclusives they have, which I don't know if it's biased or just an opinion, but they kind of crush Xbox and their exclusives that they get here and there. And when they do drop, they're usually not that great. But I do think software-wise, streaming-wise, service-wise, Xbox could kind of come out on top if they offer their games, which they already offer on PC. That's the thing. If they offer those games on other platforms as well. I don't know. It is definitely a very, very interesting thing. I could go on forever about this, but it is very interesting to see where gaming as a whole is going. You know, even just, well, maybe not a few years ago, but even just like a generation or two ago back, you know, you used to just buy a disc, put it in the console, and there you go. There was no day one DLC, there was no day one update, there was no season pass, there was no online, there was no, you know, bugs and this and that. The game just played and you worked it, and now and it worked and you just played it. And now we're potentially talking about games streaming to service or streaming to platforms like your phone via the internet, and having big giant games like Halo or, you know, whatever the case may be, on your phone or on a tablet. And it's pretty crazy. It's pretty interesting to see where gaming as a whole is going. I don't think it's going to change rapidly. I don't think it's just like that all of a sudden everybody's streaming games. I do think that the next generation of PlayStation and Xbox consoles will have, there'll probably be another family of systems, kind of like this current generation where you have a PlayStation, you have PS4, PS4 Slim, PS4 Pro, you have Xbox One, Xbox One S, Xbox One X. We'll probably have a family of systems. In the next generation, at least one of them will have a dedicated drive for a disc. But I do think we might see consoles that are more dedicated to digital downloads and have a much larger hard drive, or that are more dedicated to streaming. That definitely seems to be where gaming is going. And I do think Xbox is as a brand moving towards that service, and I think it's very smart. At this point, I feel like I'm rambling on about it. Very exciting stuff, but we have another rumor floating around that Nintendo was reviving a dead game. And I was scrolling through Twitter, and I remember I saw someone tweet about this, and I was like, yo, if we get Scalebound, that'll be crazy, because that got canceled. I think that game got canceled right, like a little bit before the Switch actually came out. And I will say this: I know earlier I said there was no Xbox exclusive that I'd buy an Xbox for, but I'll tell you this: if Scalebound came to Xbox, granted, mind you, it was probably going to be available on PC anyways, but I would have bought an Xbox for Scalebound, because that game looked phenomenal. That game, it looked so much different than other Xbox games, other games that you'd imagine Xbox having. It was so cool. It was basically this dragon game. It was a game developed by Platinum, which is very, in my opinion, niche company. They usually make games that are very far off, very odd. But Scalebound piqued my interest. It looked phenomenal. And Microsoft canceled it, I believe, in January of 2017. And now there are rumors, a year or two later, that Nintendo might be reviving a dead game. And that dead game may or may not be Scalebound. Now, look, I don't know how intellectual property works. I don't know how Nintendo would go about getting their hands on a game like Scalebound that was once owned by Microsoft and going to be exclusive to their hardware. I don't know how Nintendo would go about obtaining that game. And I don't know how likely I don't know how likely it is Nintendo would spend that much time and money reviving a game like Scalebound that never came to store shelves, never had a prequel, never had, it was an idea shown off at E3 a few times. It's not like it was a beloved franchise or a beloved series. It was just it was a game that was coming to Xbox. It got canceled. So what are the chances that of all the games, this is the game that Nintendo is reviving? And at that point, I don't know how far Platinum was into development, but how easy would it be, or I guess how hard would it be to have to remake the game for Switch? Because I can't imagine it's going to be easy. I can't imagine taking an Xbox One game and just bringing it over to Switch. I can't imagine it's going to be that easy of a task. I mean, we've seen games like Doom come over to Switch and Wolfenstein and Warframe. Yes, we've seen that happen. We've seen miracles like that happen, but I don't know, Scalebound just seemed like such a big, open, giant game with dragons and monsters and all this stuff. And I don't know what the chances of Nintendo reviving that game are. I mean, hey, I'll take it. I would love to play Scalebound, and I'd love even more to play Scalebound on my Switch. I'm not complaining. I would buy it day one if it looked good and actually ran well. But I don't know. I think it seems more likely that Nintendo would want to copy and paste the idea than directly take the game and make it for Switch. Because I'd have to imagine you would have to maybe not start all the way over, but I can't imagine that taking however much they've developed and putting on Switch, I can't imagine it would be that simple. So if you're already going to restart development on the game, why not just make it, it doesn't have to be a whole new concept, but why does it necessarily have to be Scalebound? The one thing I will say is it sounds likely because Microsoft and Nintendo have been very friendly this generation. Nintendo is they're no strangers to Platinum. They've made Bayonetta 1, 2, and 3, which, well, Bayonetta 2 and 3 are Nintendo exclusives. They made the wonderful 101. They're developing Astral Chain. I mean, they've been very kind to Nintendo as well, especially through the Wii U generation. So I mean, it makes sense. Like, this isn't a crazy idea, but how realistic is it that Scalebound, as it was shown at E3 and as announced, is coming to Switch? Like I said, I would lose my mind if Scalebound came to Switch. That would be phenomenal. That would be amazing. I would love very much that. But I don't know. It's such a weird thing because, like I said, it's not like it's a franchise or a series. Why not, I guess, take the idea or maybe even call up Platinum and say, hey, remember Scalebound? Like, make a game like that for us. And I'm sure that due to Microsoft having exclusive rights to Scalebound, I'm sure that there is some legal stuff there and they can't just copy and paste the game. I understand that. But why not just make a new game at that point if you're going to start over? Because I can't imagine just taking what they've already made with the assets and the texture and the engines and taking it, just moving it to Switch. I can't imagine it'd be that easy. So if it's already going to be hard and you're going to scrap development and restart, why bother making it Scalebound in the first place? I don't know. Either way, there are rumors that Nintendo's reviving a dead game. Scalebound happens to be that game. And with the rumors that we were talking about earlier with Xbox Game Pass coming to Switch, it doesn't sound that far off. Xbox has had not really a hit with any of exclusives in the past handful of years, I'd say. Scalebound was the one interesting one, and they let it go for some reason. I can't fathom why. That was the one interesting Xbox game. The one Xbox game that I think many people would probably, like I said, I would have bought an Xbox. Granted, it would probably be like a cheap Xbox One S or something like that. But I'd buy an Xbox to play Scalebound if I had to. It looked that good. And they let it go. And I think it makes sense that of all people, they'd lend it to Nintendo, if anything. But either way, it's such a crazy idea and crazy rumor. But I hope that we do get some light shed on it. I hope that we do end up getting some sort of game like Scalebound on Switch, because that would be absolutely amazing. But I don't know. It is kind of odd too, because Bayonetta 3 is still in development. Astral Chain is in development. How many teams do they have over at Platinum? And how much I mean, do they have the time or the people or the money or the resources to work on a game like Scalebound? Do they even have the manpower over there? Like, I know it's not a small indie company, but at the same time, it's not like, I don't know, I can't imagine they have a whole roster full of teams and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm interested to hear more about this. Like I said, it's just a rumor, but that's that. Scalebound potentially coming to Switch. Another thing that we kind of talked about earlier, is the hardware of the Switch. Look, it's not a potato. It's not the weakest hardware that's ever been released. But at the same time, it's not as capable as a base PS4 or Xbox One. So my question is this even technically, is this even possible? Like I said, I know we kind of talked about this, and talking about how we saw games like Doom and Warframe and stuff like that. But technically, would this even be possible to bring this game over to Switch? Like, I love the Switch, don't get me wrong, but I really, I don't know. I don't want to play. I would love to play a game like this on Switch, but I'd hate to play a game like this on Switch if it's going to look muddy and not run that well. And with it being in development for Xbox One, I'm sure there was a lot. There would be a lot of things that Platinum would have to give up technically in order to get this game on Switch. So I don't know. I guess it's a question of, do you want it at all? Would you rather just have it at all, even if it looks bad, or would you rather not have it, because it's going to be bad? Do you know what I mean? Like, you have it, but it's not that great. Is that really better than not having it at all? I don't know. Either way, I'm just rambling on about it. It's with the Xbox Game Pass and this rumor, very interesting stuff, most definitely. But I don't know. Maybe within the next week or so, we'll actually get some light shed on these rumors, and we'll actually get some confirmations. But that's really all the news. Let me go through my notes one more time. I'm pretty sure, though, that is all that I wanted to make. Yeah, I think so. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about as far as like the rumors and some of the news and stuff like that. There are a couple other things that I wanted to mention real quick. First of all, we got release dates. So Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 1, and Resident Evil 4 will be available on Nintendo Switch May 21st. You can actually pre-download the games as of today if you're listening on YouTube. As of right now, I don't know the price. I hope they're not more than like 20, if I'm being honest. These are pretty old games at this point. I would love to play through a Resident Evil game, and I'd love even more to play it on Switch. So hopefully, if the price is right, I can actually get my hands on these and play a Resident Evil game for the first time. I did play a little bit of Resident Evil 7 on PC, and I liked it. I'm just not too big of a fan of like the survival horror stuff. Like, I'd much rather play games like Outlast or Layers of Fear or Observer or PT or stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of games like Resident Evil or I did like the Evil Within games, but I don't know. I'd love to play Resident Evil 0 on Switch. Resident Evil 0 and 1 are coming to Switch. I don't think we'll ever see Resident Evil 2 remake on Switch unless we get a Switch Pro. I'm just being honest. And as far as Resident Evil 3, there is no Resident Evil 3 remake, which I guess has to be not necessarily confirmed, but it should be next. But very exciting stuff. Finally, release dates for those. Like I said, if you're listening on YouTube today, they are available for pre-download. So the prices are up on the eShop now. You can go check those out. And they'll be available May 21st. We also got confirmation that Saints Row the 3rd will be coming in May as well, and on the 10th. I've never played Saints Row. I was very excited to hear that it's coming to Switch, but it's coming out. I mean, it's coming. Well, I guess May is what, like 2 months away. That's actually quite a while away. The one thing I will say is I hope that even like Resident Evil included, Saints Row included, I hope these games don't cost that much, because I feel like a lot of these publishers can use this re-release on Switch as a way to not necessarily cash grab, but monetize off of it, make money off of it, and sell these games at a higher price than they should be. There's no way. Even I think Saints Row. Actually, let me look this up real quick. So Saints Row 3 has been out since 2011. I really hope these games are not anywhere near like a full $60. I don't know. I guess technically it would be a new game for me. I've never played them before, so technically it's a new game. But still, I feel like $60 for something that's that old now is very, very not good. I don't think the Resident Evil games will be 60. I don't think they will be. I'm really hoping for like 20, maybe 15, 20, $25 prices. Saints Row 3, it's going to be, honestly, the prices for games like these are going to be a deal breaker, because I can go on Steam and get them for a fraction of the price. And granted, yes, I don't have that portability. That sucks. But sometimes I feel like these publishers take advantage of re-releasing a game or releasing it for the first time on Switch, and they can charge you a little more and say, oh, but you can take it anywhere with you. I don't know. I'd love to experience these games, but I don't want to experience them like they're brand new AAA games that just came out and pay $60 for them. Even I know they're older games, and I know it takes manpower to bring them over to a new console, but still, either way, that's exciting. Those are all headed to Switch in May, so if you needed something to play after Yoshi, now you have something. Even though there were some other games coming out in April and May, but either way, moving on. 1 terabyte micro SD cards are coming. In case you needed bigger storage for your Switch, SanDisk and Micron have you covered. I don't think there are release dates yet, and there are no prices for the Micron SD cards, but SanDisk will be selling a $450 1 terabyte micro SD card for your Nintendo Switch or smartphone or whatever. That's crazy. I just bought over Christmas. A lot of SD cards went on sale over Christmas, and I forgot how much I got it for, but I did just get a 512 gigabyte SD card for my Switch. Like I said, I've been going all digital. My 128 gigabyte card that I got at launch quickly got filled up, quickly got super filled up with games. And I don't know, like, yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards buying a 1 terabyte card, not at 450. I think that's way too much. Even though it might be worth it and it might seem like a decent price, that's more than the Switch itself. That's more than a PlayStation. That's close. That's how much like a Xbox One X is. That's very close to, like hardware price points. Like it's just, I can't do that. I can't do that at that price. At the end of the day, it's nothing more than storage that I'm just gonna throw in my Switch and never look back at. I don't want to pay that much for it, though. It is kind of cool. Of course, the Nintendo Switch was released to support up to 2 terabyte micro SD cards. So Nintendo has you covered. You are future-proofed. You're all good. 2 terabytes. But yeah, 1 terabyte cards. That's crazy. That's a lot of games. That is a lot of games. But that is a lot of games that you can fit on that card. Other than that, that I think wraps up everything this week. Not a whole lot to. I mean, there's always breaking. I guess I'm not really breaking the fourth wall. I'm talking to you guys straight right now. Due to my recording schedule, it's really hard to keep up with all the Nintendo and Nintendo Switch news. So I'm probably gonna be behind 1 week, And that's just gonna be how it is. I'm gonna be behind. There's been a lot of rumors and leaks and speculation and news within the past week. Even after I think even after like the last episode went up, a lot of news just broke, and it does kind of suck that I can't record right away but I do like compiling everything into these episodes that I can talk on for longer than 10-15 minutes about one subject. Instead, we can do 30, 40, 50, 60-minute shows. I personally like that. So, like I said, there's probably a lot of news this week that I'll talk about next week, like the Pokemon stuff. But either way, that's really all there was this week. And before we get into what I'm playing, what I'm going to talk about, the game that I've been playing the most this past week, one thing I did want to say, I wanted to mention is in last week's episode, I gave the wrong release date, and I fixed this in the comments section of that episode, but Mortal Kombat actually releases the 23rd of April. It's a Tuesday. I thought it released on a Friday. I was wrong. I fixed that in the comments. I know it wasn't a huge thing, but I did want to at least confront about it. Also, if you watch the Assassin's Creed 3 remaster trailer that Ubisoft uploaded to YouTube, it looks much better than what Nintendo streamed during their Direct. So in last week's episode, I said it looks awful, it looks butt cheeks, it looks terrible. It still doesn't look great compared to PS4 and Xbox, but it does look better than what I initially thought. So check out the trailer that Ubisoft uploaded. It looks much better. Frame rate still looks a little iffy, but graphically, visually, it does look better. And most importantly, moving forward, I want to be more certain about the information and news that I present. This week was mostly rumors, so there's really nothing to back up anything. They're speculation. They're just things to discuss. But moving forward, when I talk about news or info or stuff like that, I want to be more certain. I don't necessarily want to be a news outlet over here, but at the same time, I don't want to present the false or wrong news. So definitely going to try to be more certain about that. But either way, before we end off the show, let me talk about a little game that I've been playing this week. And that little game that I've been playing is L.A. Noire. L.A. Noire actually released back, I believe, in 2011. A lot of 2011 games. And it was re-released with a little remaster, as well as all the DLC. I believe 2017 for PS4, Xbox, and Switch. I picked up the Switch version on day one, and I played a good chunk of it, and I kind of fell out of it maybe a little less than halfway through the game. I kind of fell out of it. However, I picked it back up, and I've actually been playing it every night for the past few nights now. And this game is so much fun. I've been playing a case every night. I've been playing it mostly in handheld mode, by the way. Just laying in bed before I go to sleep, solving a case, solving a crime. It feels so good. But the game is fun. It does, control-wise, does feel a little like sticky at times. It just feels a little rough. And the graphics haven't held up all that great, but at the same time, I could imagine back in 2011, the game looking phenomenal. The faces do look good, and they're easy to read when somebody's lying or not telling all the information. Since you are playing as detectives in LA, you're crime fighters. You're fighting crime. It does make it really fun to interrogate people and interview people, but you basically play as detectives running around LA, running around solving crime. It is a lot of fun. I've been playing it, like I said, pretty much every night now, here and there, and been thoroughly enjoying it. Between solving the cases and finding clues and driving to different locations and interrogating people, it is such a fun game, and I hope to actually finish it this time. Like I'm probably about halfway through right now. I probably stopped playing a little before I was halfway through the game. Now I'm probably halfway through. Definitely want to see this game until the end, because each case gets crazier and crazier, and it feels like it's linked with another. It is a lot of fun. So that's what I've been playing this week, is L.A. Noire. It's been a lot of fun. I believe it's $39.99 on the eShop. It did release $10 more than... No, if I'm not mistaken, was it 40? So it is actually $49.99. My bad. It's $49.99 on Switch. So it's $50 on Switch. It was $40 on other consoles, which at launch was something we kind of saw a lot, was that Switch tax. But either way, I think it's worth the money if you've never played it before. It's such a fun game. It's really well done. And that's what I've been playing this week. So, but that's pretty much all the time we've got. If you're listening on YouTube, be sure to leave a like on and a comment on the video. That'd be greatly appreciated. If you want to support the show, you can check out the Patreon. Link is in the description down below. If you want to follow the show for updates and more on Twitter, you can find, once again, a link in the description down below. But above all else, have yourselves a good one.